So this evening, we're going to talk about multisensory learning. We're going to go through learning styles inventory so you can get an idea of how, one of the ways that you learn. So not so much so that you can learn how to teach the kids, but because a lot of times when we have a certain learning style, we tend to gravitate towards that learning style. So what you want to do is pay attention to yourself when you're designing lessons for your kids to not gravitate towards that learning style exclusively, because that's what we tend to want to do. Very quickly though, a brief overview of multisensory learning. So one of the senses that people use, that we talk about people using for their multisensory learning, is auditory learning. And a lot of times these kids have a love of music. They can usually remember songs they hear, and they easily follow spoken directions. Okay, so that's auditory learning. So in the visual learning style, visual learners learn best when they can see what they're supposed to be learning. So these are your kids that want to see the book. So you're reading a book to them and they want to look at it. And they're not satisfied with you just reading the book to them, right? They like bright colors. They like demonstrations and handouts. They're not going to pick up on stuff just by talking, right? And then this visual learning is most closely conforms to classical teaching. So when you're giving a kid a worksheet, or you're standing in front of your class and you're just going along and teaching, that's your visual learning style. So, and then you have kinesthetic learning. And kinesthetic learners learn best through touch, movement, and motion. Okay. And these are your kids that are moving around all the time. And they're probably kinesthetic learners. But it's important to remember that even though people have their strong suits, that it's not necessarily true that people only fit into one category at a time. So a lot of times you'll have a kid that one day will demonstrate really strong kinesthetic learning and moving around and really get on the lesson, and you'll have the same kid the next day that wants to look at everything and they're really picking up on everything in a visual manner, and they're not as movement oriented. And so you can't really put kids in a box. These are generalities, right? So you have to understand auditory learning, kinesthetic learning, and visual learning are they're general, just kind of general terms that we use for multi-sensory learning. So anybody can learn in any one of these ways, right? So it's really popular to think that everybody falls into one of those categories, but it's not necessarily true. So this brings us to multi-sensory learning, okay? So what you really want to do, rather than trying to create lessons that are geared towards one learning style or another, and this is where you have to really pay attention to what your learning style is, because you're going to want to gravitate to that, like I said earlier, is to engage as many senses as possible within that learning environment. Or in a single lesson, you really want to kind of hit all the different ways that the kids can learn. That's what we call multi-sensory learning. More sensory connections are better. So the more, so there's a lot of research that says, for example, that if you're trying to study something and you chew peppermint gum and you're engaging your sense of smell while you're trying to learn something, then you'll learn it better because you're engaging more senses in that learning process. Smell helps memory. So if you get a kid and you're trying to teach them shapes, like I'm going to show you in a second, if you can get them up and moving, then they're more likely to remember their shapes next time, because that movement causes that it's another sense that they can use in order to learn. So some visual techniques. So text and pictures on paper. I'm not going to read all that to you. You guys can read. I'll print it out. But lots of color, lots of graphic organizers for older kids, but a lot of the artwork. If you have, we're going to do. So you guys are going to leave here with some lessons ready that you can take into your classrooms on shapes and how to hopefully engage kids on multiple levels of their senses, of multiple senses. Okay, so then we have auditory techniques, so hooks on tape, peer-assisted reading, musics and songs and instruments. And then tactile. So that's the sense of touch, so engaging your sense of touch. So so anytime you want to teach a kid shapes, rather than just showing them a shape, then you hand them the shape. If you have a real world representation of that object, then it's always better. So using modeling clay, sculpting materials, anytime you get the kids, visually engaged with the materials that they're handling, and so clay smells, so that you're getting that smell in there too. And then kinesthetic. So you can take your kids outside and you can teach them, tree trunks around, and so everybody goes around and you touch the tree trunk. Or, I don't know, what else is outside? It's different shapes, truck tires. You touch the corner on the building. Are there bright colors on the playground? Yes. So if you're teaching colors, you can go out and, okay, everybody go run and touch the red ladder. And so they run out, everybody grabs the red ladder, and so you're teaching them that they're using kinesthetic tactile, and so they're making a connection between, oh, this is red, but also this is a ladder. And so you actually, and that gets into scaffolding, where you're bringing in things that they already know or understand. And even at a young age, you can teach them, if the kid has some knowledge of something else, then they're going to try to use that to understand something that's new, right? So, let's say, for example, the kid, he sees a ladder, doesn't know it's a ladder, but you call it a ladder, then all of a sudden they have knowledge of, well, all ladders are red, because I just learned that this is a ladder and that ladder is red, and so all ladders must be red. All right, so next time they go someplace that has a ladder, then their knowledge of what a ladder could be builds because they already have knowledge of what a ladder is. But if you don't, so you can scaffold knowledge even at a young age. You can show them, you build on what they already know. And so that's really important. But since kids at this age, at a young age, don't, they're not going to read the books, they don't have all the life experience, then what they do know is through their senses. So if you build off of their senses, okay, then they can make a lot of the connections on their own. And the more senses that you can engage, the more connections they're going to make. And that's true even with my high school kids and teaching Spanish. It's part of the reason I like teaching them using props. Because if I want to teach somebody that something is a jacket, I can show them a picture of a jacket, or I can show them an actual jacket. And showing them the actual jacket is always better than just a picture of the item. So the more objects you can get involved in your learning is better. So that's multi-sensory. That's just kind of a brief overview. Engage as many senses as you can when you're trying to teach kids. So what I want to do now, real quick, I'm going to give you a learning styles inventory and kind of give you an idea of what your learning style is. And like I said, not so much because we as the teachers need to know what our learning style is, so we can. It's certainly helpful when we're trying to teach ourselves, but we want to pay attention to what we're getting comfortable with. Because it's really easy when you get tired or it's been a long day to kind of slip into this thing where where you think you're doing a really good job for the kids, but what's really happening is that you're slipping into your preferred learning style, and then the kids are not benefiting as much. So actually, I have better sheet right your answers on, so it makes the grading easier if you'd rather do this, because otherwise you have to rip the front page off. So while y'all are doing that, I'm going to set up the lesson, the activities.
Is this, are they both the same?
Yeah, just one
Yes.
is your answer you can do, so you don't have to tear this off.
Oh, okay.
So if everybody wants to look at this page in the stable packet, we can go through real quick. Okay, so you're going to count one for the following questions. So you just want to just go down and look. So just add one. So question 3, that's one. So just for the following questions, you're going to add one. So you just count one up. So 3, 4, 6. If it's yes. If it's yes, count one. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, that was well. So if it's yes, count one. So 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 13. 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 13.
7, 9, 13.
3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 13. 16, 20, 22, 32. If it's yes, you're counting one
Is
up.
it 22, 30?
22, 32.
Oh, I'm marking out here first.
39,
Yeah, I'm just circling in reverse. If I say yes to him, I'm circling.
39, 43, 44, 48, 49, 51, 52, 54.
Okay.
So if you counted yes for those, you need to add those up.
We put it in here.
Am I the last one?
Okay.
It's not a matter, just
It's not a competition.
Okay.
And then you have flip that page
Oh,
okay, so you're for the auditory. So
up. Just do yeses.
just yeses, yeah, so you're only counting yeses. 1, 2, 8, 10, 11, 12, 14.
11.
11, 12, 14. 1, 2, 8, 10, 11, 12, 14. 24, 26, 11, 12, 14.
I know, but I'm gonna get them mixed up with the
I
other.
just need a different mark.
I know, well, I didn't.
That's good, start with.
Okay.
Okay, so 1, 2, 8, 10, 11, 12, 14. 11, 12, 14. 24, 26, 28. 34. 34, 35, 36, 40, 41, 45, 47, and 50.
That's it?
Okay, and then kinesthetic. So
Oh, different mark.
5, 15, put a plus
Yes, right.
for all the yeses, yeah. 5, 15, 17, 18, 19, 21, 23, 25, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, 30, 31, 33, 37, 38, 42, 46, and 53. Was anybody surprised by what they found? And if you had some that were really similar, it just means that you may have one that's like your dominant, but the other ones are just, you can learn a lot of different ways. But, so these are the ways that your kids come to you, right? So they come to you, and on their best day, maybe they're really good at visual learning, or maybe when they're tired, they're going to revert to something else, or they're not feeling particularly like moving around a whole lot. So a kid that's kinesthetic one day is going to be more visual or auditory the next. So you can't pigeonhole anybody into a single category. And this is real basic too, right? So you have visual, auditory, kinesthetic, but you also have there's a guy Howard Gardner. He wrote a book called Frame of Mind in 1983 that lists 7 different intelligences. All right, so we talk about multiple intelligences, we talk about learning styles, and so when we're talking about these 3 in particular, this is the ones that we really talk about, on a grand scale. But when you start getting into multisensory teaching, when you take these into account, then it's not the only way, right? You have to look at everything else there. So, okay, so we're going to get into some activities, and when you leave, you're going to have a couple of different prepared activities that you can use with your kids that are going to, number one, scaffold, right? So it's going to take knowledge that your students should already have. The second thing is that it's going to differentiate. So it's going to take the different styles, the different sensory learning styles that we were talking about, and it's going to take the same content and teach it in different ways. So you give each kid the opportunity to see it in a way that they really understand it. And then you give each kid, because just because a kid, like I was saying, maybe they're kinesthetic, but that doesn't mean they can't learn in an auditory manner. And if you can mix the two, if you can have a kid walking around and noticing the green triangle or the red star, then they're getting that kinesthetic in because of the movement, but then they're also visually recognizing the colors and the shapes. And so you're getting into that multisensory that is so much more effective for teaching the kids, and they'll pick it up a lot sooner. And a lot of times it's retention too that we're worried about. So it's going to seem a little elementary sometimes, but I'm just kind of demonstrating what it would look like. And then, so what I want you to do right now is let's color all the triangles. Let's color all the triangles red. Color all the triangles red. So, one of the other things you can do is make it self-directed, right? Within the containment of the lesson that you're doing, because you want to give the kids and keep them interested. So now, I want you to color all the circles, whatever your favorite color is. Because anytime you can give the kids choice, then it makes it all the more interesting for them. Okay, so now that you've given them choice, then you can say, now Becky, what color did you paint your circles? Can you show the class your blue circles?
Do what?
Can you show the class your blue circles?
Show us the blue circle.
Okay, so then everybody sees your circles are blue. So they identify circles and they identify blue. And Becky gets to show off her coloring skills to the whole class, and everybody claps for Becky. Okay. And then, so you have 8 kids, so maybe do 1 or 2 kids, not just, you want to just kind of spread it around a little bit. Okay. So.
Can I show mine? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, if you kids have the same color, then you can point that out. Okay. No, let's do one more. Let's paint all of your ovals yellow. So now what you've done is that you've built a knowledge base. Okay, so the kids are aware, okay, this is an oval, this is yellow, you're reinforcing the colors and the shapes. And so you're able to more readily move on to the next thing, okay? So you've done some seat work, right? So the kids are sitting down, they've practiced some, it's visual, right? It's actually a little bit tactile because they can feel the paper up through the pen, and they've had to color in the hopefully color in the lines. Okay, so now we want to get those kinesthetic kids. All right, we want to get, so you give everybody shapes, and remember that the more real world objects you can give the kids, the better off they are. All right, because you want, a picture is fine, but the actual object, here, put that on your shapes. Put that on your, yeah, put it on your triangle. Yeah, so stick that to your triangle. So for the kids, you might have to get a little more, put that on your triangles. Okay, so if you have a purple triangle, anybody have a purple triangle? If you have a purple triangle, go put it on an orange circle. And I'm not going to point out where that is, but I just pointed out where it is. Okay, if you have a red triangle, go put it on the green triangle. And if you have a blue triangle, put it on the yellow rectangle. And then when you've done that, come back to your desk and let's get another shape. Okay. So, okay, let's do a star. So that's kind of your regular shape. I guess teaching kids stars about how to drop your star.
This is all
Okay, let's do your over like this. And then Becky, did you start? Oh, Becky. Okay. If you have a yellow star, put it on the blue oval. If you have the green star, put it on the yellow rectangle. If you have a green oval, put it on the red star. And if you have the purple star, put it on the orange circle. Okay, so what we've done, and so it's such a simple thing for the kids to get up and do these types of activities, but you started out at their desks on the paper in a controlled environment, right? So you can say, oh no, little Timmy, you colored the wrong one, let's fix it. So you've done a little teaching, but then they're able to get up and move around, you give them some independence, so they're not confined to their desks, but then they also have to hold the paper, they have to get up and move. And so you're getting those kinesthetic, those tactile things that we want to do, okay? Okay, so that's one activity you can do. Next one involves the sandwich pieces. Okay, so everybody go ahead and take out your sandwiches. Okay, so it's a little bit outside the realm of the learning styles, but it gets into bringing content together and being kind of resourceful and then not bringing novelty into the lessons. Because if you're talking about food, you can talk about the color of the food, you can talk about the shape of the food, but then you can also talk about what's healthy food, right? So you can have a discussion about vegetables with your kids and everything goes on a sandwich. So, but you give all your kids a sandwich like this and you say, everybody find something round. So you take your sandwich apart and you find something round. So we're working with the shapes. So we're again with the tactile. The kids get to, it's visual, okay? So you have something round, you have something that's fuzzy. The felt is fuzzy. Okay, so the kids get to feel it, they get to see it, and then we're going to get the kinesthetic. Okay, and you're talking to them, right? Because you told them to find something round, and then so they're hearing you say the round, so you're actually getting into a little bit of auditory as well. Now, I would say auditory would have to be a little more targeted in that way. For example, you would want to do like a call and response. So, you know, let me see a couple of things here. Let's do this one. So you do a call and response. And so you can do a call and response type activity with your kids, and you can say, okay, what shape is that?
Round circle.
It's a circle, right? Okay. And is this red? No. What color is that?
Pink.
Pink. Good job. Is this a triangle?
No.
No. What shape is that?
Square.
It's a square. Is that green?
No.
No. This is white. Right? Did everybody say white?
White.
White. Okay, so you get into this kind of interactive whole class type environment. Okay, and so the kids are learning from you, but they're also visually seeing the item that you're showing them, and then they're having to call and respond. They're calling and answering questions. Okay, so you've given the kids their sandwiches. You told them, okay, everybody find something round. Okay, now and then you're going to have them. You have these pieces of paper that I've laid out like this. Okay, and they have to find the right color. You're going to categorize things, right? Which is such an important skill for kids growing up. They need really like things in categories. So if you have something that is round and red, come put it on the green rectangle. And if you pick something that's pink and round, but everybody should have something round. If you have something that's pink, put it on the red rectangle. And if your thing is brown, come put it on the blue rectangle. And if you found something brown, then put it on the purple rectangle. Oh, no, blue. I did say blue. Yeah. Okay. So let's do one more. Just, I mean, I know you guys understand it. So everybody finds something that's a triangle. Oh, not a triangle, a square. Sorry, a square. Okay? And so then you can ask the kids what they have. So you can go into even more into the food, so you can say, Eva, what square thing did you find?
Cheese.
You found cheese. Good job. And Miss Diana, what square thing did you find?
Bread.
Bread. Good job. And Kayla, what did you find?
Cheese.
Good job. And Becky, what did you find?
Bread.
Great. Good job. Okay, so if you have a yellow square, come put it on the pink triangle. And if you have a white square, come put it on a yellow rectangle. And if you have a brown square, put it on a brown rectangle. Okay. So, it's really easy to find, make up different activities for hitting those multiple intelligences, not the multiple intelligence, the multiple learning styles. So, you really want to get into what the kids already know. You want to scaffold, and you'll bring that in and give them some new information, and then just have them work with it in a lot of different ways so you can get all their different senses engaged into the process. So, good. Any questions?
I have a child who is, we believe, has autistic tendencies. So, like, I can tell when we move to other places, transition, some rooms are a lot more busier in color and whatever, and he gets a little bit more active and agitated. So, would you, instead of putting things all over your room, would you think that like putting it like in one local place would be?
I think for students who have sensory sensitivities, then you really want to cut down on the amount of, so you can't cut down on the noise, but you can give them, say, headphones. Or you can put them in an area of the room, maybe where there's one or two kids, rather than the whole mob of kids. And a lot of times those kids like to work by themselves anyway. And so you can still engage, multiple sensory, senses with them, and you can kind of, rather than doing like 4 or 5 senses, or 3, engaging kinesthetic, audio, and visual, maybe just do audio and visual with them. Give them a book that they can listen to. So a lot of those kids' books will have tapes.
Yeah.
And so it'll be about shapes, so they can listen to the book and see the shapes on the page. Or is he reading yet?
No.
What age?
2.
He's 2.
Well, he's 2. He just turned.
Okay. So maybe it'd be a song with a book. But you want to move them away from kids touching them, and it'd be like a single sound to hear.
Yeah.
So with headphones, rather than having to filter through all of the sounds that he's getting in a room. You don't want to separate them from the rest of the class.
I can tell, he moves around the room. I let him freely move, and when something tweaks his interest, he does come back to the circle and kind of looks at me and whatever. But then he'll go back. So the felt's given me an idea, which I had talked with someone about felt before. But also, like our learning time, if I put that up on a wall, maybe just localize it to one wall and not all over. Does that make sense? Having different things all over, maybe just so that he can kind of know that that is where we're learning. Like we're learning color, which is brown this month, oval. As far as ABCs, we sing the ABC song, and then our shape is oval, brown, and what's the other thing? Letter. No, I do the ABC song. I just do it pretty simple, just because of him. Too much is in the amount of time that I have. But if I keep it localized, like in one wall, where he can just see those things in that one wall, and it's not all over, because I want to decorate everywhere, but I know it's just way too much.
Well, I think you could probably decorate it, but having that instructional focus on one section, so when he knows, and have the same area. Like, so even when all the kids know, okay, well, we're gonna learn something, we're learning it here. And so, but even all the other stuff, and then he might find something interesting somewhere else, and he might be listening, but he's not socially engaged with what's going on over here, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too is you want to be sure that you want to make it as inclusive as possible for that kid. You know what I mean? So when he's feeling overloaded, then he needs to be able to move away, but still feel like he can, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and I know you're not doing that, but it's just,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the big deals about, what we call it the least restrictive environment. You know, we want to have him, you know, we want to accommodate his learning as much as possible without removing him from the regular kid
Yes.
interactions, right?
Yes.
So yeah, having a centralized location for your main instruction, and that's where the busy stuff is, but still having even stations for him to go visit
Yes.
when he's moving away from everybody would probably be good, because it'll give him, because if everything else is bare, he's just gonna wander around and like,
Yes.
he's gonna be staring at the wall. You know, if you have like a little tub with something for him to fidget with, you know, maybe he's still listening. And the stuff that's in the tub is related to what you're talking about. You know, so I think that's probably how I would approach that. So thank you. I appreciate y'all a whole lot. Thank you. And the camera's gonna get shut off now.